All right, Ronan MMA, welcome back to the channel. Now, as per usual, Sean Strickland's Media Day interview has gotten a lot of attention, some positive, a lot of positive, and some negative. And the negative comes from some pretty predominant figures in the MMA space, especially one, Karen Bryant, who then tried to do a pretty milquetoast walk back, which we will cover at the end. Now, I may not have shared this on the channel previously, but I am in fact 100% qualified to adjudicate matters such as these. So what we will be doing today is we will be going over every single thing that Sean Strickland said that could have been construed as offensive or what have you, any of the ists, any of the phobias, anything like that. And I will be adjudicating his statements based on the evidence, and we will determine whether or not he is in fact guilty of being the piece of shit that so many people think he is, or if he is correct and or joking in some of those matters. Before we get into it, like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. We are going to start off with offense number 1, okay? The first thing that could be construed, and I would imagine that Karen Bryant had an issue with, considering things that she's had issues with in the past, is him bringing up Israel Adesanya claiming he is Chinese, okay? And he brought up something specifically where he said something about, well, what about my skin color, but I'm Chinese on the inside? The evidence. All of the journalists here gaslit the fuck out of Sean Strickland by telling him that he did not mention skin color. He did, in fact, mention skin color. I will play the clip for you right now. Right?
Black outside, China inside. I am Chinese. I'm the Black Dragon.
Right. And as we can see, quote, black outside, China inside. I am Chinese. I am the Black Dragon. And ever since this whole situation with Dricus du Plessis began to unfold, it was really easy to find these clips that were not just edits that people have made. And now I can't find them. I can't find a bunch of these old Israel clips where he's claiming to be Chinese, because there was in fact one where he said, look at my skin color. You may just see a black man, but really, and then goes on the fuck about whatever Chinese. Okay, so based on the evidence and those dirtbag journalists trying to gaslight Sean Strickland into saying that Israel Adesanya never mentioned skin color, charge number 1 will be thrown out, okay? Sean Strickland is innocent of charge number 1, which was calling Israel Adesanya. And because I just knocked my desk, because he is innocent of that charge and it's being thrown out, the punishment of which he suggested Israel Adesanya should get for this statement, which was the revoking of his black card, I find him innocent of that also, because he was correct on the first statement that he made. So now we are going to be moving on to offense number 2, okay? Now, this one I'm sure Karen Bryant had an issue with, and I'm sure a lot of others did also, okay? Offense number 2. Go back to taking women out of the workforce, he says. Maybe that's where we fucked up. We let women vote. Now I will present the evidence, okay? Now, I don't know about America as much, but here in the beautiful country of Canada, okay, with our current leader, Justin Trudeau, who was elected in 2015 to a majority government. Ever since, every election after that has only been elected with about 30% of the vote, getting him a minority government, which is hilarious, dude. Okay, in Canadian society, we give the biggest participation trophy of all time. You get 30% of the vote, that means 70% of the population didn't want you. Well, guess what? You're the prime minister, okay, because we're polite or some bullshit. Anyways, dude, in the first election that he was eventually elected as prime minister in 2015, the reason why he was able to get a majority government was in fact due to the young to middle-aged women, right? That was the demographic that got him elected as a majority government. And when polls and surveys were conducted, some of the reasons that were cited, you'd think maybe policy related, you'd think maybe economics, who knows? No, it was because they thought he was cute, right? Because back then he was 8 years younger. He was like early 40s or even late 30s perhaps. And his socks, right, and his hair. So, you know, I don't know, again, I don't know too much about America, but hey, I think he might be onto something, okay? And my wife agrees, okay? And she's definitely a woman, all right? So there's that, okay? Now, but because of the women vote, all right, this entitled man-child who has a room temperature IQ and is by definition a bunch of horrible political labels that for whatever reason his supporters just ignore, right? If somebody who's a little more conservative leaning they see as a fascist, they will not shut the fuck up about it. Whereas Justin Trudeau can quite frequently and, consistently deploy fascistic tendencies, okay? And I guess it's up for interpretation, but still, and he still gets elected, right, with that participation trophy. So in that regard, Sean Strickland is in fact correct. Okay, maybe we did fuck up, all right, by letting women vote. So this charge will be thrown out also based on the evidence. And a sidebar, because I'm a judge, okay, he was joking, you whiny fucks, and as am I. He's trying to get a rise out of people. I think that one of the problems with Sean Strickland might be is that he sounds the same all the time. And that's not to say that he's monotone, but his tone doesn't, it's always at fucking 11. And if he's sad or happy or angry or joking or being serious, it all sounds the same. I think this might be one of his problems, but I love him for it. So fuck it, dude. Charge number 3. Okay. The British journalist who has the name Oscar. Okay. And the claim by Sean Strickland, so the charge in this matter would be, well, Oscar's a fucking gay name for an Englishman. I will present to you the evidence, okay? I thought that name was pretty fucking English, right? So, charges dropped. But wait, Justice Ronan, we've got new evidence in. Oscar Wilde, the Irish poet, was in fact a homosexual. Now, a lot of people, I don't know why the fuck Jesse Ventura is here, but a lot of people kind of lump in Irish and Scottish and all that shit with Brits. So that's probably what was going on in Sean's brain. Okay, so there is, we can kind of look at the intent, and I don't think it was malicious. I think he was genuinely, taking Oscar in his brain and thinking of Oscar Wilde at the same time and went, oh, that's fucking gay because Oscar Wilde was gay. So because of that, we're gonna demote this to a misdemeanor. He's still guilty, but it's not a big deal. A fine of $1, because we're fair and unbiased here in the court of Justice Ronan. Now moving on to the 4th charge. Okay, immediately following. This could have potentially been charge 3B, but I created it as a separate charge because I think that this is a very good point Sean Strickland made. Now, all right, well, fucking listen, dude. I love the gays. Calm down. Don't hate your life choices. Don't hate your husbands. But anyways, I'm not a fan of the transmissions, though. All right? And what's fucking hilarious is that they bleep this word out, and you'll know what I'm talking about if you know anything about cars, dude, because you're a guy, okay? What's the short version of saying transmission? Okay? That's what Sean Strickland said. They bleeped that out, right, in the interview. Later on, he says something that, in my opinion, is fucking way worse, and they let that shit slide. Regardless, innocent. I don't need evidence, okay? I think Sean says what most people are feeling. I hit my mic, but it's okay, dude. He's clearly progressive, okay, because he loves gays, so that's fucking awesome. But the transmissions are the ones that are pushing things way too far, right? Before the whole transmission movement, we hadn't really heard any complaining from the LGB side of things, because they realized, oh, we finally have gotten all of the shit that we asked for, so we're just gonna let it go. And if we run into an individual who doesn't like us for this reason, well, then fuck him because he's an asshole, right? But then these fucks come along, and then all of a sudden, in schools, you have to read this book. Okay, no, dude. Innocent. Sean is 1000% in the correct. This charge is dropped, and I don't even know what the fuck it's doing in front of me. I'm gonna have to have a serious conversation with the prosecutors in this matter. Charge number 5. We are ripping through these because there is so little evidence against Sean Strickland that I'm just ripping through them. Okay, charge number 5. Dale Brown is a fraud. Evidence. None needed. If you've got a fucking brain or any kind of combat training whatsoever.
Yes, yeah. You're gonna come here.
Go, go, go! Oh, man. Sorry about that. We got aggressive here. Let me help you with that.
And you watch one goddamn Dale Brown video, you can tell immediately that he does not know what the fuck he's talking about, and he is bullshit, and he's a fraud, and he's up there with like a fucking Aikido master. I don't give a shit, okay? Charge number 5B, though, is where things get a little hairy. Now, he said he's with a white woman. Every black man's dream. Well, shit, okay? If you look at data in regards to racial disparities in dating in the United States of America, it's actually highest among black men, okay? And they double up their opposing gender of the same race, right? So they date outside of their race at, I think, about a 24% clip. And the marriage rates for black men to white women have been rising rapidly ever since the 80s. Whereas black women to a white husband, probably because they can't be satisfied, is 12% to the black man's 24. Okay, so in that regard, I feel like Sean Strickland is actually an online debate bro who reads studies, knows what he's saying, says it in the most inflammatory way possible, and gets people extremely riled up, right? So on this charge, right, which is a subcharge 5B, I'm forced to throw it out because if you look at the evidence, he is correct. Okay, he's correct. I don't know what to tell you. He mentioned Chris Curtis. Chris Curtis must have a white woman as well. I don't know what to tell you, ladies. If you're a black lady, I'm not trying to be shitty. Okay, it is what it is. I've watched multiple debates on this subject, and I've heard the reasons cited for why they want to date outside of their race. And I'm not saying that I necessarily agree with those, but hey, maybe listen to them and try to take it as constructive criticism as opposed to getting upset about it. Who knows? But also I've heard black men on the other side argue that you should never date outside of your race and that you're actually like race trading. But if a white person were to say, I only want to date white people, that's racist. And then when asked, well, okay, well, what about like ethnic Jews? The same thing, that's racist. So only black people are allowed to have that opinion, according to this one man that I watched in a political debate, which was mind-blowing to me. But regardless, I digress. Sean Strickland, charge number 5 and 5B, fucking out of here, dude. Okay, moving on. Charge number 6. I don't even know that I need to address this one. Dewey Cooper, okay? Now, I think Dewey Cooper's all right. He's a cool guy. He's gained a fuck ton of weight since his kickboxing career. And the one thing that I find annoying about him is that he's always doing this. And I don't know if he's got fucking autism or Tourette's or what's going on, but he's always doing this no matter which fighter it is. You can't even see. No matter which fighter it is that he's walking out there with, he's always doing this. And it's strange because none of your, like, what the fuck, bro? But regardless, he mentioned Dewey Cooper's kickboxing record and said, fuck, I'm gonna have to fight this guy after. He said, if you look at his fucking kickboxing record, it's all red. I went and took a look because now I was curious, right? Because I had always heard that he was a great kickboxer, and I wasn't necessarily, I knew that he fought Duke Rufus, if I'm not mistaken, and a few other well-known guys. Regardless, if you combine his Muay Thai and his kickboxing record together, he's got a astonishing record of 5-14 and 1. That's 5 wins, 14 losses, and 1 draw. Charges dropped immediately. Moving on. The prosecutor's going to get in real shit for this one, all right? Charge number 6. Shaylee Lip on IG, okay? This was a good one, I thought. The guy asked him about why he decided to bring up Shaylee Lip's record as opposed to just calling out the people for, posting about it. And I think the point of calling out the record, this is now the evidence portion of this charge, I think that the point of calling out the record was to say that, like, she has a horrible amateur career. Nobody knows who she is. You know what I mean? If this was some, like, fucking phenom, right? Like Amanda Nunes style shit, like, coming up through the ranks, or, whatever. Take your pick. It would be reasonable to assume other MMA fighters, pro MMA fighters, UFC MMA fighters, no less, might know who she was. But as he said, the only reason people gave a fuck was because she was a hot white woman who had pictures on Instagram with her ass sticking out. And I went and, for purely research purposes, I went and took a look. And, it's not necrophilia because she's alive in the photos. She does have her ass hanging out quite frequently. So he's correct in that, right? And he's correct about her amateur record, okay? And I also feel that he is correct about the bandwagoners like Joaquin Buckley and guys like this. He said Dana White posting it was honorable because Dana White is a massive figure in the MMA space, and it was a tragedy. She was very young, blah, 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 whatever. But he was saying none of the bandwagoners, none of the guys, the fighters that posted about it knew, but they were probably just looking for clout, right? And I feel like that happens everywhere, okay? In a small town, I had friends die where there were people who I knew for a fact were not fucking friends with my buddy and were, like, maybe acquaintances at best, posting shit on Facebook, scrambling through to find the one picture that they had of him and them together so they could post it. You know, which is annoying as shit, dude. And to think that that would happen at a small level, but it wouldn't happen at a large level is silly. And the level of clout that you gain when you have, like, you know, 200,000 followers or whatever posting about this shit is much more than what you would get posting on your Facebook in a small town. So 100% correct. Okay, calling out the bandwaggers. He did this for Forrest Griffin, or not Forrest Griffin, pardon me, Stephen Bonner, other half of that fight. And I think he's correct there and here also. So charge number 7's fucking dropped. Okay, moving on. Charge number 8, calling out people who won't claim their country and try to claim their roots, which, by the way, is progressive. Okay, it's a progressive point. So he asks this one journalist, well, where are you from? And he goes, you look Mexican or whatever. And the guy says, I'm Colombian. And he goes, okay, so are you Colombian? Because the guy has no accent whatsoever. Sounds like a white guy. Or like an American, whatever you want to say. And the guy goes, well, my whole family's Colombian. And he goes, okay, where are you from, though? And the guy said Miami Beach. And Sean said, well, are you sure you're fucking Colombian? Are you sure? Or are you an American with Hispanic roots or whatever? And I totally fucking agree with this, dude. On my mother's side, right, I'm 50% German. Her side's 100% German. Well, guess what, dude? I'm not. I'm Canadian, right? Nationality-wise, I'm Canadian. Ethnicity-wise, I'm German. And that's what he's talking about. People don't want to claim their new country. Especially, it seems to be, if they're of color and they're they've immigrated to America, it seems like they're like ashamed or something, except for guys like Benil Dariush, who he shouted out also. Then he went and asked the UK journalist, hey, Oscar, okay, going back to Oscar, if he had an opinion on that, and the guy said no, and then of course he picks a white example and says, but you know, when Americans will say, oh, I'm Irish, and it's like, well, are you really? Your grandparents were Irish. Of course he picked that one, right? Because that should be the sentiment for all colors, for all nationalities, for all ethnicities. If you were born in America or Canada or wherever the fuck else, your nationality is there if you still reside there, right? Like Dricus Duplessis, African, okay? Moving on. Well, no, not moving on. Charge 8A thrown out because Sean Strickland's correct and progressive, okay? Charge 8B calls Patty multiple slurs for the British word for a cigarette or a bundle of sticks or what have you. Wonderful. Amazing. Incredible. I loved it, but it's crazy that on YouTube he said that, you know, it rhymes with bag if you haven't figured it out, right? It rhymes with bag or hag or tag or shag, right? But it's a bundle of sticks or a cigarette. He said it like 3 fucking times and then called Patty Pimblett's haircut gay. And they let all that shit slide. But the transmission, they had to bleep out, which I found insane because I would argue that this word is much worse. But I don't care that he used it. So charges thrown out. I'm getting annoyed with these guys. These charges shouldn't even be placed in front of me. This is absolute bullshit. Regardless, let's summarize, okay? Because we've gone through now all the charges. So, charges are fucking dropped. All of them, except that one that we've commuted or demoted or whatever down to a misdemeanor because there was no malice. And he legitimately was probably thinking about Oscar Wilde, the poet, who would have, right, a similar, to people who are like American, they would have a similar accent. Now, I do accents for fun, and I know that Irish people are way different than British people. But I digress. Sean Strickland, like he said, I'm homeschooled. My social skills, I'm learning as I go. All this shit, right? So I don't blame the guy for conflating the two in his brain. So he has to pay a $1 fine, okay? Which is because we're fair and unbiased, right? But the rest of the charges are fucking dropped, okay? Now I just want to briefly go over the journalist who seemed to have an issue with this, and that's Karen Bryant, okay? And I'm going to put a series of tweets up on the screen for you guys, but I want to read out her tweet, okay? How do you feel about the stuff Sean Strickland says? I think he maybe does actually believe some of the things he says. I'm sure she would only be talking about the race and the women views in this situation. I would imagine Karen Bryant doesn't really care about the transmissions, but who the fuck knows? But I also think he says things just to get a rise out of people for laughs and reactions. Hashtag mental health is no joke, though. Your thoughts? So what I want to point out here is that she unironically, there's 2 ways you can interpret this. Either she unironically made fun of or poked at or whatever Sean Strickland for having mental health problems, or what she thinks are mental health problems, because I am a judge, but I'm also a doctor, so I can diagnose him. He's fine. There ain't nothing wrong with him. She's not a doctor or a judge. What the fuck does she know? She can't diagnose him. But regardless, so she's either unironically, legitimately making fun of him for having mental health issues, or she's implying that somebody who believes things and thinks differently from what she believes and thinks is mentally ill. So this is charge number 1 for her. So she's guilty, okay? And I don't need any more evidence. She needs to resign immediately and go straight to jail, and don't even fucking think about passing go, okay? Karen Bryant. Then she tries to do some milquetoast walkbacks, which I really don't like. And I should say, I've always gotten along with Sean in interviews. He's been cool, and I've had no problems. I don't agree with him all the time, but I don't know if everyone has had the same experience. Ugh. Gross. You're getting fucking an extra 5 days added onto your sentence for that one, lady. Okay, now we're moving on up to her extreme walk back, part of it. I should say, I'm probably not the greatest litmus test for what's offensive regarding Sean Strickland stuff. I have been on the receiving end of so much BS over the course of my life that my skin is probably way thicker than a lot of folks in MMA. Well, thicker than... I won't go there. Regardless, her saying that she's got thick skin, and we're talking figuratively now, we're not talking about literal thick skin, okay? So, this is coming from the lady that called out the Mexican-American champion, Henry Cejudo, for making a very funny wordplay on the current bantamweight champion's name, calling him Aljamaima Sterling, right? And she tweeted and said it was racist and all this shit, but I didn't hear her say anything when Henry talked about his credit score, which I thought was funny as fuck. But regardless, dude, so she's the kind of lady that was probably cool with Aunt Jemima being taken off my goddamn syrup bottle, which I am not okay with, dude. The syrup doesn't taste the same now that it says Pearl Milling Company. Bring me back Aunt Jemima, you fucks. What is that shit, okay? So that really irritated me because, yeah, you're right. You're not the greatest litmus test because you're a pussy. But then she tries to say that she's not a good litmus test because she's got thick skin, when it's in fact the opposite. Now we move on up to the final installment of the walk back, which now I cannot find because of course I can't, but I did screenshot it so I could put it up. Okay. Sean Strickland, after every UFC presser, and then it's a gif of some fucking, I don't know, it looks like a Halo character. I'm not too privy to those games. It says, don't care, stay mad. So, and then she puts a bunch of laughing face emojis, laughing, crying face, no doubt, no less, I mean. But regardless, so you make fun of a man for mental health issues, or that you perceive to be mental health issues, and then you walk it all back. Well, you're still in jail, and I hope to not see you on the desk this Saturday evening for UFC Fight Night. Strickland, I fucked up my words there. Strickland versus whatever his name is, dude. Nurmagomedov, maybe. I don't know. Magomedov. Anyways, dude, this has been Justice Ronan, freeing Sean Strickland from the grasps of the woke mob, jailing Karen Bryant for being... It's so funny that she's got that name. Right? It's very fitting. Regardless, she'll be in jail, and she wasn't allowed to pass go, so she's got no money to pay bail. Like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. I will see you at the next video. Bye-bye.